911.
What's up, you itchy crotch little cretins? How's everyone doing this week?
Not bad. It's been a pretty good week. Thanksgiving was good. Your show was good. RPW show was a good time.
Absolutely.
Afterwards was fun. Yeah.
We did sell out the show, so that was good for us. Everyone seemed to really have a good time. We did run into a small snafu to where the local fire department came and told us if we did our electrified match, they would shut down the entire show. So I'm not sure like if the guests picked up on what we were doing, but we set somebody up to be a fake member of the fire department. And
oh no, we were completely fooled. No.
Well, I didn't know if the storyline on why it was happening was coming by. You know what I'm saying? But we ended up jamming a dildo up his ass, and Nick the Element drug him off right in front of the actual people from the fire department as they were booing and saying "fuck you, fire department." So,
there were actually fire department people there. See, I didn't actually see that.
We had the whole setup ready to go for our electrified match. We were going to have vertical tubes that were all lit up, and then we were going to have bundles in the corner and the whole nine. And somebody decided to call the local government and tell them what we were planning on doing, who sent a representative out and said not only would they shut the show down, but then we would be fined. So I was not able to do that match. However, it was an extremely violent and crazy show.
It was.
Yeah. It was very cool. Very entertaining show and very, very proud of it.
Well, so, I'm excited. How long is it on IWTV already, or when will it be up? Any ideas?
By the time this drops, it will be up.
Very cool. I'm very excited to see it. I wish I was there in person.
Yeah, it was definitely a good show.
That card was killer.
Thank you. It was a great night. Very proud of what happened. I'm glad to have it behind me. That one was a stressful one just because it was like the comeback show, you know?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first one since the circus, isn't it?
Yeah, and since I got sick and all that stuff. And, you know, I mean, I was playing like the mental gymnastics of like, can I still do this? And yada, yada, yada. You know how you just kind of like fuck with yourself, even though it's something I've done a million times before.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was fine aside from two small things. So fuck the fire department. And, you know, the other thing just was a bad situation that happened to a guy who just couldn't show up, and we ended up replacing him with someone just as good. So everyone was happy with there. So
yeah.
Very cool.
Good show.
Thanksgiving was good. How about your guys'?
Thanksgiving was good. I did it at my house for the first time ever, and I also got drunk for like the first time this month, so that was fun. but it was a good time. Yeah.
Well, my husband had to work actually on Thanksgiving, so we celebrated the day before. When I got home from work, the feast was prepared, and it was scrumptious. We have leftovers for days, for weeks, and I'm glad. I'm very thankful for a wonderful Thanksgiving, and it was cranberry sauce. That was how I helped. I got the cranberry sauce out of the can. It actually was cranberry sauce. It wasn't anything else.
Yeah, I made some banging like apple sausage stuffing with like cornbread. This shit was fire. Our turkey was great. It was really good. Everything turned out like surprisingly well. People showed up. I really enjoyed myself that night.
Sounds amazing.
I will say this as somebody that has to work in the food industry on holidays. I'm a manager at Bob Evans, so that's actually one of our busiest days of the year. If you are one of those people that relies on a place like Bob Evans to cook your meal on Thanksgiving, try being nice to those people because they don't want to be there either doing your food, and them getting yelled at doesn't make their day any better.
Oh, yeah.
So we spent the entire day just getting shit on. Well, we got our teeth kicked in, feeding people their family dinners, you know, and then I didn't get to enjoy mine till almost 9:00 at night, you know.
Yikes. That doesn't sound like a good Thanksgiving at all. I'm sorry that happened to you, but
well, when I got to the family place, it was fine. And it wasn't all that bad because I am very quick in a kitchen. but it did like bother me to see like servers like openly weeping because some dickhead didn't want to wait an extra 10 minutes for their giant fucking feast that we're doing hundreds of an hour out of a small room, you know?
So you said you're quick in the kitchen. How quick are you in the bedroom?
Depends on the day.
On Thanksgiving. How about on Thanksgiving then?
It's been a while since I've had any afternoon delight on Thanksgiving. I'm not really sure.
Afternoon delight.
Most actually getting thrown over a bicycle.
Anyway,
anybody got anything else they want to hit before we start talking movies?
No, not a lot. I mean, other than having my week off, which was awesome last week, I'm just getting slammed with work now, so right back to it. Yep.
Yeah. Man, I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah.
It happens.
It happens, Kelly.
Yeah.
You take a week off, you're the only graphic designer at your job.
I am. So it's like double the work.
It's just get that backup out.
Right. Anyway,
well, I've said it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Kelly, you're an amazing graphic artist. I love everything that you do. I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you. Actually, I shot this picture and designed the shirt. Actually,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll send you off one of those, Germ. I still got a few.
What's up?
I'll send you off one of those. I still got a few.
I like the broken light tube. That's my favorite part.
I want one.
My goodness. I love that.
I thought you already had one, Pod.
No.
I got you.
My man.
Anyway, let's get to our movie.
Yeah.
I picked this one this week.
Yeah, why don't you tell them about it?
It was this one I remembered seeing some years ago, and it popped up in my head a couple weeks ago. I was going to watch it anyway, and it was my turn to pick a movie this week, and I was like, fuck it, I just remembered it being, like, I didn't remember the movie at all, but I remembered, like, the general feeling of it being really creepy. It's a Shudder original, and it's, like, a hidden gem on there. I think it's the first Shudder original I might have ever watched. Like, it was some years ago. But this is Witch in the Window on Shudder. And, yeah.
So, yeah, when we go into Spoiler Town, that's where we're gonna be docking the spoiler boat. And I didn't point this out, but just bear with me today, guys. I'm sick as shit. So if I sound nasally or low energy, I'm on drugs.
Well, let's get some good drugs in you then. You know, no more downers. Yeah. Get some uppers.
I got Theraflu in me. That's what I call the drugs today.
It's no fun. No fun for anyone.
It's not been a fun day.
All right. Let's get this horror train back, the terror train back on track, and talk about what we've been watching and what we've been killing and thrilling, baby. Ow! Who's up first? You want to start, Kelly?
I can go first. This one I have put off for so many years. It always popped up as a suggestion, but I know I had no interest in it because the cover is dumb. I never liked the cover, and I was like, yeah, that looks like shit. But it wasn't that bad. Jugface 2013.
I've almost watched that a couple times.
Me too. But the cover looks dumb. Name. Yeah, and the name's dumb. So I was like, meh. But yeah, I actually watched it today. Director Chad Crawford Kinkle. He also did Dementor. I don't know if either of you have seen that. I've never seen that. But
both sound very, very familiar, but I can't picture either. I remember the cover of Jugface, I think, had like a woman.
Yeah, it's all like gray. A woman with like white eyes in the woods. It's just kind of cheesy.
Like the face is like kind of cracked.
Yeah, it's very like cliche, just like cheap movie cover that you would see, you know? I don't know.
Especially for the time it came out, right? There was a lot of movies that had that similar sort of style to the cover.
Yeah, the cover of this easily falls into like the rest of those, you know, just like
I'm sure as a graphic artist, that type of thing probably irks you and probably will either attract you or distract you from watching said film.
Absolutely. Like I said, I've put this one off for years just because of that. I'm like, it looks kind of cheesy and cliche, but it's not that bad. You can find this on Prime, Plex, Pluto, Tubi. This follows some backwoods people who worship a hole in the ground. basically. The hole in the ground, when they sacrifice people to it, it like heals them and shit. Like, I guess it's been going back centuries, and they're like hill people, super like hillbilly. It takes place in modern times. Um, well, anyway, the people that are sacrificed to it are chosen by somebody that's been appointed by the hole or the pit, by the pit to be the potter. And the potter gets these weird visions and sculpts these like moonshine jugs with faces on them. And whoever's face in the little community that he sculpts is going to be sacrificed to the hole, as not to piss it off, because when it gets pissed off, it like brutally murders people. They don't really show how, they just basically show people like kind of splatter, and then they're all splattered around the hole. Like, the effects aren't that great on this or anything, but I mean, it was the story wasn't bad. But it follows this girl Ada. She, after she discovers that her Jugface has been made, and well, the movie starts out with her banging her brother. So, you know, right off the rip, like, she gets pregnant by her brother, and because she has this baby and finds the jug face of her face, she wants to protect the baby, and she does everything she can to, you know, not get murdered by the fucking pit.
That seems reasonable. I mean, nobody wants to get murdered by the pit.
But now that she's pregnant, she definitely doesn't want to get murdered by the pit. So she hides the jug face of her face, and, you know, the fucking pit starts seeking revenge on the entire community, and people are getting brutally murdered and sacrificed to it. And
I feel like I've watched this, but it might have been back when I was drinking and might have been really drunk at some point and don't really remember it. But at the same time, I love like modern folk horror. And
this is
like this
that.
is
It is. I didn't hate it, man. I thought it was creative. It was fun. It kept me engaged. I'd probably give it about a 3, you know? Kind of sad I put it off for so many years, but it's not terrible. Don't let the cover fool you, because the cover is bad.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta just ignore the cover art and go for the ride. And if it's a fun ride, if it's a good ride, cool. And if it's not, it's streaming, you know? It's not like you paid any money for it. You already got the service, so
right. And it's on Tubi and Pluto, so you don't even have to buy one of the streaming, you know, services to do it. It's on the free ones.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
I like it. I love it. Give me more of it. Ow.
I mean, the effects and everything wasn't that great. Like, the ghost was kind of cheesy, but I mean, for what it was, fuck, it was all right, you know?
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
What about you, big dog? Man in charge, man with the flu, sneezing over there. What you been watching?
So I'll talk about the one I just finished right before we started recording this. It's something that's been on my list for a while, just because the preview has made it look so silly, and that's called The Vagrant from 1992, starred Bill Paxton and Michael Ironside. This is a horror comedy, and it kind of came out during that time when studios didn't know how far to lean in one direction, and kind of were like forcing things to like Nothing But Trouble to come out, where they're like, well, we got to make it a mix of horror and comedy. We can't just let it be something gruesome and fun. But this does have a lot of that going on in it. Basically, what you know how what I would actually describe this as is there's another podcast I listened to, and recently they did a couple weeks of what they called yuppie horror, and what they described yuppie horror as is like things like Cape Fear, or like Hand That Rocks the Cradle, or like Sliver, where these rich people are put out of their comfort zone and put in these like horrific situations by this lower class. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But it's a bit about that. You got Bill Paxton. He goes to buy this house. He's gonna fix it up, and he's gonna, you know, propose this girl he likes, you know, and this is gonna be your home when we build it together. But there's this vagrant that keeps fucking with his house, and, you know, he's losing his mind. He can't get the cops to do anything about it, because they're like, well, did he like steal anything? Did he threaten you? Like, it's like, no, you know, he's just out there peeing on stuff. So it like turns into this like cat and mouse game, like full of red herrings kind of thing on like, is Bill Paxton actually crazy and just trying to frame this bum and he's actually doing the shit? Or is the bum actually fucking with him? Because, you know, there are bodies starting to pile up and shit like that. What was cool about this one is like the tone of it was very Sam Raimi, like, but more like bad Sam Raimi, like Crime Wave. If you've ever seen Crime Wave, where like they're being Sam Raimi wrote this movie called Crime Wave, or no, the Coen brothers wrote this movie called Crime Wave, and Sam Raimi directed it, and it was going to be his first big budget movie, and he totally shit the bed on this fucking thing. It was just so weird, and he didn't know how to handle big budgets at the time. But the acting is very much like that, where it's like they're playing it straight, but they're a little too ham-fisted with it. But that's part of its charm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely makes sense. And I remember, like, similar to what Kelly was saying about Jugface, I'd always been turned off by the cover art of this one. I've heard, people buzzing about it lately. I don't know if it was recently released by Arrow or something, but yeah, other people have been tweeting about it.
Scream Factory put out a Blu-ray with a much better cover.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that would make sense then. But now everything you've said, Bill Paxton, Michael Ironside, that it's more of a horror comedy than just straight horror, definitely has me interested.
Well, the other thing about it, for a movie that I think it's only an hour and 20 minutes tops, it covers so much ground. Like there's a storyline of moving in, being terrorized by this guy. Then there's a court story, and then there's a relocation story, and then they do what is my favorite thing in early 90s and late 80s. That was a trope that I never get tired of seeing, which is either abandoned cave, mine, or carnival. And this one has the abandoned Indiana Jones mine. But what's funny is during one of the scenes, they're having like a cave in, so they're in like the really dangerous part, and in the background, there's just a Coke machine glowing in the distance, product placement, like perfectly squared. Like they have this Coke machine down in like the depths of this like dilapidated pit, and they're keeping it stocked, you know. But it also does get very gory towards the end. I will say, just as a trigger warning, there is some animal violence I was not so happy with. So aside from that, just be kind of ready for that. But I watched this thing on Tubi. I'd give it 3 stars. It's a real fun, easy watch.
Nice. That's very
like those, like, you know, actually the sense of humor on it. I would akin it to Hudson Hawk.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that was one of those movies that I remember when it came out. I had no interest in, but then it was playing like on basic cable, and I was like, you know what, this is actually a lot of fun. You know, so
yeah.
Yeah, if it's anything similar to Hudson Hawk, like along the sort of humor lines, I'm really excited to check this out now. Everything you've said about it, it sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, I literally credits rolled like 2 minutes before we started recording. It was just something I put on today to check out, and I'll tell you what, I had a lot of fun with it. Depending on how much the Scream Factory DVD is next time it goes on sale, I'll probably get me a copy of that to add my collection too, because I really like, and I'm a big Bill Paxton mark too, and I really like Michael Ironside. And Michael Ironside is the most dickish I've ever seen him in a movie. In this movie, like he just will not believe anything bad has happened to this dude. He's like, it's all your fault. The second no one's paying attention, I'm going to shoot you. Like, I will be no help, and I'm the police. I'm the only guy that could possibly help you, and fuck you.
I don't think there's any movie that Michael Ironside hasn't played a dick in, actually, that I can think of, at least off the top of my head. But Bill Paxton, I remember I fell in love with him actually later on in his career with that movie Frailty. I don't know if we've talked about it before, but yeah, that's such
that was a good movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix of modern noir with like isn't there like a demon angle, and yeah, it's just so smart, so well done. I'm happy I saw that one.
That movie.
That's one I haven't watched in a minute, but yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
actually, so I have been compiling a list of like, if I didn't watch a movie, like enough movies in a week, I can go to this go-to list of movies that like I know so well I
do
can
that.
always talk about, and that I just kind of want to plug because I really enjoy it. And Frailty is one of those movies I've watched probably dozens of times.
I always get that weird feeling that you get like, you know what you want to watch, but like, remember in video stores, you'd walk into a video store and your mind just goes blank. Like, fuck, what was I here for? I don't even remember what to look for, you know? I get that a lot when I'm picking out
That's
movies.
how you find the best shit, though. It's like
It is.
and that's what like a lot of this younger generation's missing out on. It was
Mhm.
the joy of going to the video store and
Yeah.
not having something picked out ahead of time. Be like, I'm gonna spend the next 2.5 hours there. I'm gonna wander around. I'm gonna look at pictures. I'm gonna see who put this one out, who put that one out, who directed
Right.
this, what critical acclaims are on the back, and I'm gonna leave with something that most people don't rent. You
I
know?
used to walk around with a stack and then have too many, and then you gotta like evaluate which ones you want more than the others. You're like, but this one could be good, and this is like pre IMDb, so it's not like you could just like look up reviews, you know. So you're just standing there like.
That was also my favorite part of it
Yeah.
was there wasn't that database to like look shit
No.
up. You know, like you just had to be like, all right, Blood Harvest. This has a really fucking weird cover, and Tiny Tim's in it. Fuck it,
Yeah.
you know, like how bad can it be?
Well, and renting a movie at the time was $3. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't a huge deal. And if it was bad, I mean, movies back then, even if they were bad, they were a lot of fun to watch. Some bad movies now, it's a chore to get through.
Yeah.
But back then, like especially 70s, 80s, and some 90s horror, like it was better that it was bad. It was like more fun if it was bad. But yeah, it's definitely the cover art, or like if I flipped it over and it said Trauma, I was like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. If you knew the
for
company.
Full Moon.
Mhm.
Full Moon Entertainment. I needed to watch that movie.
Magnet, Anchor Bay.
Magnet always had a lot of good shit too. Yeah, that was when I
but
always
that-
looked at when I worked at Allied and stuff.
That was the other great thing that drew me to be kind of the horror movie I watched where I was the video store down the street from me was a mom and pop place called Hollywood Video.
Hmm.
And if you could blow by the new releases, it was $1 for a movie for 5 days. So my dad would go and give me like $5 to be like, go get yourself a new release and an old movie. And I'd just come back with a stack of old boys, you know, like I got my week set now.
Yeah.
Good times. Good times. Taking a trip down Nostalgia Avenue.
Yeah, I think
Wait. Did you say that Hollywood Video was a mom pop shop?
He did. I picked up on that as well.
Yeah. I was like, was it? I always thought that was a chain, but I was just gonna let it go.
The one down the street from my house wasn't an actual Hollywood. It was a knockoff.
Oh,
It was called
okay.
Hollywood Video, but the way they got away with it, there was a space in between Holly and Wood. So it was like a name. It was Hollywood Video.
Got it. Okay.
I like it. I like it.
Gotcha.
Make it work.
But
Make it a
3
gimmick.
stars. I'll tap out with that one. You're up, Germ.
Blah, blah, blah. All right. First, I'm going to talk about a movie I missed when I was in the theater. I'm excited that I picked it up super cheap off of Amazon, physical copy. The Black Phone.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we talked about that on From the Mouse and Madness, but we definitely enjoyed it. Go on.
Dude, yeah. So it
Yeah.
blew me away. The cinematography it reminded me almost immediately of Insidious. And then when I was watching the extras, of course, the director, or it was either the director or cinematographer or both, worked on
Oh, it was
Insidious.
Sinister.
Sinister? I thought it was
Sinister.
Insidious,
Sinister.
but either way, yeah, Sinister. Yeah. So I mean, I love the way it looked, and then Ethan Hawke did a killer job playing.
He
the bad
absolutely
guy.
did. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
love him.
goodness gracious gravy! I couldn't believe it. Like he just owned every scene. He chewed that scenery like it was nobody's business.
And not only that, it gives him so much credit that he could do that wearing a mask the entire time. Because you only see his real face not fully uncovered, I think, twice in the movie.
Yeah, I
Right.
think you're right.
It's
Yeah,
either
they
he's
talk
got the
about
top
that
or
in
the
the-
bottom or both, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, they talk about that in the extras as well, and like how he had to like reinterpret his facial expressions just by his eyes, or like project more in what he was saying. Because, like you were saying, there's some scenes where even his mouth is covered. You know what I mean? The all you see is his eyes, and you can hear his voice. So he's great. All the kids were amazing.
All the kids, great actors. Like that movie is stocked full of good, good actors.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. And it's based on a Joe Hill film, Joe Hill short story, and which I haven't read yet. And Joe Hill is my favorite author. I'm sure this is probably blasphemy, but I actually enjoy his books better than his father, Stephen King's.
No shit.
But a lot of what he does and a lot of the things that you see adapted from stuff that he's wrote seems very similar to Stephen King's. So, I mean, like they've even co-wrote short stories and co-wrote things together. But to see, it might even be my favorite adaptation of something by Joe Hill. And that might be because I haven't read it yet, because when they did a series on, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm sure, but it's the license plate is like NOS something, but if you
Nosferatu.
It's Nosferatu, yeah. So that's my favorite book of all time. So when they did a series of it, of course, I was let down. And then my favorite comic book is Lock and Key by Joe Hill. And then when they did a series of that, I was a little like, yeah, exactly. I'm like,
Lock and Key I didn't get into. I know I almost the Nosferatu, is that how you, because the NOS, I never really said that right either, but I didn't really get into that like I wanted to either,
Right, exactly. Like it's funny because in the series, they never mention why the plate reads the way it does. In the book, it's points out that the bad guy, the antagonist, his wife thought it would be funny to have a license plate that says Nosferatu because he's draining these kids of their life force.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, when I read that, I was like, "Oh my god!" I popped for that in the book, and like a big pop for me in the book was when they mentioned Pennywise's Carnival, and I was like, "Oh shit!" He's talking about his dad's book and his book, and I remember I tweeted about that immediately, and my friend, Eddie, who got me the book for Christmas, is like, "You're still reading that book?" I'm like, "I'm a very slow reader, please. It is a very big book." But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. A Black Phone, everything about it I love. The acting, the photography, the story. The only thing that caught me off guard a little bit is like, these kids know how to fight. I was like, whoever taught, like, kids do not know how to fight like that, like block, jab, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No,
well,
just
the one kid
did.
Yeah, the one main ghost kid, yeah.
Yes. And he taught the other kid, and he already taught him before he got killed.
Mm-hmm.
That was his buddy, remember?
Yes.
Wasn't he in like Taekwondo classes or something too? The one that was.
No, his brothers were always beating him up, so he learned how to be tough young.
Yeah, see, I only seen this in the theater once. I can't. I should watch it again, but it was good.
Technically, you were there twice. You just weren't awake.
No, that was Nope.
Yeah.
That was Nope.
Yeah. What do you think the second movie after Nope was that you slept through?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oops.
So for the podcast, we had already done Black Phone, and then we were going to do Nope, and they were showing it at the drive-in
two movies.
And they always do it as like a double movie, so it was Nope and then Black Phone. So I was like, yeah, man, I'll fucking check out Black Phone again. And like, how perfect would it be to see a UFO movie with like the actual sky behind the screen?
At the drive-in, yeah. It was,
So it was really cool, but she ended up passing out real close and Nope, and then slept all the way through Black Phone until I finally woke him up. But
well, in my defense, me and my boyfriend were at a rib eating festival all day and had just got done seeing an AC/DC cover band, and for some reason we thought we could still stay awake and go watch 2 movies at the drive-in, and that did not happen.
I told you ahead of time that was not going to happen.
You guys live a much more interesting and exciting life than I do.
Not really. Just a couple of fun things we do.
We
don't do fun things with doo-doo. I'm sorry.
You guys doo-doo together? Have you ever doo-doo together?
What?
On one another.
Like I plead the fifth. Anyways, I love the Black Phone. I love the Black Phone. And I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
I would agree. We I don't remember exactly what I gave it, but I think it was 4.5.
Yeah, I think I gave it 4.
The second watch of it was even cooler because I already kind of knew where it was going, so I could kind of like sit back and enjoy it. And the really cool thing about it being a period piece and seeing it at the drive-in, it really felt like I was in the 70s watching a 70s movie, you know, because it the atmosphere and how they set it all up, they did a really fucking good job of doing it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every aspect of that was amazing. I love the pinball machine and like the little arcade machines in the convenience store because that's how it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the attention to detail was definitely a high point for me. You know, and I'm not a nostalgic guy, but that really every aspect, yeah, 4.5, definitely. I was pleasantly surprised, you know, and if Amazon hadn't emailed me and said it's on sale for $7.99, why don't you buy that shit? I probably still wouldn't have watched it, but now I got a physical copy. I'm totally stoked about seeing probably one of the best films of the year. There's so many good films that came out this year.
So many. This year's killer for horror movies. I can't wait to see like the Fangoria awards and shit. It's gonna be a lot tighter than, you know, something.
Not only that, like we're kind of in a lucky time right now where like most of the horror that did well this year was all original IP too.
Yeah.
So, and it showed that aside from Halloween 3, that original IP can make a shit ton of money in theaters, and I think that what you'll see is that.
Well, you also had Scream 2 this year, and I'm thinking of other like remakes, you know. But yeah, most of them were huge or new concepts, you know.
But what I was trying to say is that I think the studios will take the time to actually dump more big budgets into original IPs, and I think next year's slate of horror might get more interesting because not only did we get a lot of good horror movies this year, but we had ones that really took some bizarre swings. Like Barbarian isn't something that normally would be in a theater. You know, you got Justin Long sucking out a fucking banana titty. You know, Smile was pretty fucked up for the theater. You know, that was probably one of the more normal ones. Black Phone was definitely, you know, made for theaters. But like there was like a lot that, you know, yeah, you got Pearl, you got X this year.
Oof. So many good movies.
Yeah.
Pearl is definitely my favorite, like straight horror film, like not a genre bending thing, but Pearl all the way.
But not only that, like think about this, like what do you think the effect of Terrifier 2 is going to be?
Yeah.
That, like, as much as I found it to be too long and almost boring, not the violence or the brutality, but all the convoluted sort of like backstory that wasn't even panned out. The fact that it made so much money with such a small budget is going to be a huge impact on what they're going to be showing in theaters and how many theaters in coming years, you know, because that is, you know, as much as I'm not a fan of that film, you know, and I love the first one, it is a huge success story, you know, and you can't deny that by any stretch of the imagination. The violence, the brutality, the gore is amazing, you know. Like you were saying, I'm excited to see what happens because a tiny independent movie blew up, made what 4 or 5 times the amount of money they spent on it.
The budget was like 250,000.
Yeah, something like that. And last I seen it was like what, something 7, I don't know how many million.
It made millions in the box office.
Yeah.
I think last time I checked it was like
7 million. Yeah. I was gonna say 7. I wasn't.
Well, who's up to bat? We're meandering off.
It is me. The next one I watched, this was a weird one, man. I Blame Society, 2020. It's on Freevee and Tubi. Yeah, this is kind of like a found footage selfie cam. It was really creative. The director and writer Gillian Wallace Horvat also plays herself in this movie, and she's like from what I read, I didn't realize that when I went into watching it, but she plays like an exaggerated version of herself, I suppose. She's like a failing filmmaker. She's sick of how the industry is working for her and stuff. And this couple tells her that she'd make a great murderer. So she like takes that to her head. She's like, yeah, I'm going to make a movie where I'm a murderer, and I'm going through the steps to be a murderer, which kind of reminded me of the Leslie Vernon Mask, like
Rise of
just
the
that
Mask.
aspect. Yeah.
There's
So
been a lot of movies that have done that trope where it's like, I'm going to be a serial killer, just watch me train for it, and then
yeah.
eat, kill, or uh, capture, kill, release, or whatever was a lot like that too.
Yeah. She's not exactly like watch me train for it, but she's more like just kind of getting into her film. She's trying to make this awesome film where how a murderer does it rather than like training for it, you know? But like she ends up like stalking people. She breaks into their houses, does creepy shit while they're while they're sleeping, like in their house and shit. And of course she's filming everything. She's obsessed with like filming herself, like to the point where her boyfriend's driven away. And this character is just fucking obnoxious. Like in the way the girl from Dashcam was. She's like, yeah, that sort of like she's
He
not
was that bad.
obnoxious. It's not that
The girl from Dashcam was one of the most unlikable main characters I've ever seen in a fucking movie, and I loved that movie.
This one is up there. This one is fucking up there. But I mean, you're supposed to hate her. She's narcissistic as shit. It ends up where one of her friends die. I'm not going to tell you how that happens, but after that point, that's when like all the killing and shit actually happens. This was a fun one. It was really like grimy. It was really satirical on the way shit works in the film industry and shit. It was kind of more of a black comedy in a way. Like I liked it. What
was it called again?
I Blame Society.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know.
Was this British?
No.
Okay. There's another one I almost watched today. Oh, you know what? It's something like Diary of a Serial Killer or some shit that's British between these two women that looks like kind of like a mix of Man Bites Dog and like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yeah, this has like vibes of I mean, like after her friend dies and the murdering and all this shit starts happening, it gets real gory. It's really fast paced. Like it seems like it picks up at that point. Little slower in the beginning, but after the killing starts happening, like it's happening, I like this movie. I thought I'd give it a 3. Like it wasn't amazing, but I mean, for what it was, like I said, it's like a selfie cam the whole time, or she wears this like little head cam.
Right. Like I don't remember like I hate this, but I don't really remember watching it, but I do remember that I liked it a lot. Like it was very topical. It was very like very specific to this time and how everybody wants the shares, they want the likes, they want the approval of the people watching. And it kind of reminded me of Spree.
Yeah, I was about to say Spree.
Yeah.
It's similar to that, but yeah, you're right. She like takes that thought of you would make a good murderer to her head,
like, and I fucking would,
Yeah. I just had to look it up. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and I might have to revisit it just because if I liked it that much, there's a reason for it. And when you mentioned the gore and everything, I think the violence and gore, and then just how smart it was for being such a small budget.
Yeah, I liked it. I'd say 3.5, 3.5 probably. Good movie. I'd recommend it. But yeah, I Blame Society. It's on Freevee and Tubi.
I think that's I think that's a really cool title. Like that almost feels like a 90s title. It fit in with like SFW or Welcome to the Dollhouse with the title alone.
SFW. Cliff's Fab.
It definitely fits for like the tone of the movie and what it's about. I Blame Society. It works. I liked it.
Absolutely.
Chris,
for my next one, we're going to be kind of in the same wheelhouse where it's a very topical movie for right now, and this one's called Tone Deaf.
I almost watched this.
You should. You'd probably really enjoy it. Also a horror comedy, but this one's a little more brutal throughout the whole thing. Basically what you have is a millennial who shit is going wrong in her life, and she's gonna rent this like her and her boyfriend broke up and her life sucks. She lost her job, so she's gonna rent this cottage out in the woods. And you have William Sattler as the old man who's gonna rent it to her.
Oh, nice.
Like he hates millennials and baby boomers, and it like really plays with that trope a lot without like over they flirt with almost overdoing it because there's like monologues where he's breaking the fourth wall and just like speaking directly to you about like Venmo and shitty like teenagers and all this bullshit. And then but there's also like these really artsy dream sequences too that make it really interesting. The acting's very good. I've been re-binging Silicon Valley. I really love that show, and the girl that plays Monica stars in this thing, which is interesting to see her in a horror movie because she's such a nerd in Silicon Valley. Um, this one's pretty gory. It's fun. Like it does like some really inventive stuff that like I've never really seen. Like aside from like breaking the fourth wall, like there's like a scene where like a fly lands on the lens and you see it kind of just like fly off, and then during like a scene you see it just kind of fly into somebody's mouth, and it's like, well, you didn't really have to do that, but it did add a little something. And then at one point there's blood that hits the camera lens, and it's like little things you don't normally see like that in a movie like this. It was fun, it was playful. I'm gonna look into some of the other guys movies. There's one apparently called Trash Fire I would really enjoy from what I'm told that he made. So yeah, I would probably give this thing 3.5. It was a lot of fun. It was a quick watch. Definitely scratch the itch of a interesting slasher film with its own thing going on. Had a different ending than you would expect. So yeah, definitely check out Tone Deaf. I think I watched it on HBO Max.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to ask, is it streaming somewhere? Because that definitely sounds like something up my alley that I want to check out. But if it's on HBO Max, I've got HBO.
Oh, you know
Max.
what? It's on Tubi as well.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen it somewhere. It might even be on my watch list on there. I don't remember where it's streaming. But...
Nice. Yeah. I'll definitely have to add that to my list and check it out.
Yeah, I think you'd like it. It was definitely good horror comedy, but this one actually knew how to balance. Where the Vagrant was like, we're gonna make this really slapsticky, almost like the Weird Al movie, and then we're gonna throw in some really crazy gore. You know?
Well, both sound interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take a turn. I'm gonna take a weird turn with this. The next movie I watched was Lux Æterna. I think
Lux
that's
Æterna.
how you pronounce it. Yeah, Lux Æterna.
Noe, yeah, Gaspar Noe.
Yes, it was a Gaspar Noe joint. And I remember that I hadn't seen it yet, and I do love his films. I love some foreign films. I love some pretentious artsy bullshit, and that was everything in this. I mean, I don't know. I know that there is some source material that I'm not familiar with, so maybe I would probably had enjoyed it more if I knew what Lux Æterna was. I'm pretty sure it's a poem, right? Like a Latin poem.
From what I understand, it's a parable.
Okay.
Like it's kind of like a poem, but it has like a secret meaning, kind of like like what Jesus would preach or some shit. But what's really weird is the new Metallica song is also called Lux Æterna.
Yeah.
So like, if you try to discuss this movie, all these Metallica fans are like, yeah, man, it's a great fucking ripper, bro. And it's like, I'm not talking about that, man.
Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah. I still have people like posting links to Metallica and shit on where I'm like, I'm not really a Metallica fan.
I saw that actually. I saw that in your Facebook.
Yeah. I'm like, but I love a Gaspar Noe joint, and this was no exception. It is not figuratively, it's literally hard to watch.
I will say, if you have epilepsy, don't even bother.
Don't even try it. Don't even try it.
Make it a minute and a half into this fucking flick if you have epilepsy.
Yeah, it will kill you. You will die. You probably literally die. It was funny because when our feature film for this episode was about witches, and this film starts off with like burning witches, and I was like, oh shit, I might be doing a theme without even knowing it. But then it goes to two women talking in modern times about the film that they're shooting. But in the film that they're shooting, the women are being burned at the stake. And it was, you know what? I loved it. I loved every second of it. The majority of the film was shot like in, I'm sure I can't think of the terminology. Split screen. It was shot in split screen with one character talking over here and another character talking over here. Oh. It was difficult to keep track of everything to begin with, but then some of the characters are speaking English, majority of the characters are speaking French. But I think like even if I didn't see the subtitles, I would have thoroughly enjoyed this film. It is less than an hour, which took me off guard because like we mentioned earlier, it's hard to watch the majority of the film because lights are flashing, like really like hardcore flashing, and it's like multicolors, strobe lights, and then it ends. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, where's the rest of the movie? No, that's it. Holy shit.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stories from the screening of this thing where they didn't really warn people.
I believe it. I would believe it. Like, I'm sure there were ambulances had to take people away. And I actually think like a 51-minute runtime for this was perfect. I gave it 4.5 stars. I can't think of a Gaspar Noé film that I've seen that I haven't loved. Ever since I saw Irreversible or what was the other big one that he's known for? Into the Vortex, I think.
Into the Void.
Into the Void, yes. Yeah, I loved Into the Void. I loved
House that Jack built. Climax.
Oh, he didn't do House that Jack built.
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking. What's his fuck? Yeah, you're right.
That's Lars von Trier.
Yeah, Lars von Trier.
That might be my favorite Lars von Trier film, actually. But anyway, 4.5 stars. But unless you like artsy, pretentious bullshit like I do, you're not going to enjoy this. You're not going to enjoy it. Be prepared for some artsy, pretentious bullshit from the get-go. But like I watched Climax, one of his other films, without subtitles and enjoyed it. Yeah.
That one's a watch.
Yeah, that is like one of those films too that a lot of people are like, what? And I was just like, ooh, I love it.
That's all I can really say about it. It's a watch.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah.
My turn.
Yeah, definitely 4.5 stars. Watch it if you like artsy, pretentious bullshit. And I'm gonna toss that ball over to Kelly.
Where can you watch that? What did you watch that on?
Shudder. Oh, I watched on Shudder. Sorry about that.
Oh, cool. Word. All right. Well, this one that I watched, man, you ever like looked for a movie and it feels like you're looking forever and you just can't decide on one, and then you're just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just watching this one. Well, that's what happened here. This is this new one, Significant Other, on Paramount Plus. It's a new 2020 movie. And like I watched about half of the trailer and I was like, oh, fuck it. We'll just choose this one. And the trailer is very misleading into what this actually was. The trailer looks like it's going to be, like a couple fighting something in the wilderness, like Pacific Northwest, but that's not what it is. Okay. Ruth and Harry, it follows this couple. They're backpacking. They're about to go backpacking through like the Pacific Northwest somewhere, obviously. And in the opening of the movie, and Chris Aquaslash was great, but bad. Anyway, talking shit. Backpacking through the Pacific Northwest, and like they're obviously in love.
I'm tired of getting bullied here.
In the beginning of the movie, you see like this big red star hit, and then as they're like driving, some kid comes out of this restaurant that they stop at, and he's like, "That red star," and he's all freaked the fuck out, like obviously worried. So you kind of know right off the rip that this is an alien movie. That was not advertised at all in the trailer, but all right. So this couple's like camping, and she just gets this weird feeling that something's staring at her. She sees this deer. and she just can't shake the feeling. She's all creeped out, and then you get like the idea that this girl has like severe anxiety because she starts like popping anxiety pills or whatever the fuck she has, and I don't. The next day, he takes her up to this beautiful ledge and proposes to her, and she fucking like anxiety fucking builds up and all that shit. Stop, Chris. You shaking your head at me is distracting. But yeah, she shakes it up like
I haven't said a word.
I know, but anyway, as he proposes to her, and she like has like a fucking anxiety attack again and says no. Well, after this point, some shit hits the fan. He fucking dies, and it's hard to explain this to you without going into detail and telling like the full story. But the point that she has anxiety and he dies and there's aliens is very important to the story. She ends up
just give us the broad strokes. You don't have to describe.
Well, I'm done describing. All right. But the thing about this is like these aliens, it's kind of funny because the aliens are affected, like they can kind of go into like human bodies and shit. So but they feel the emotions that the humans feel, which ends up somewhat being their downfall. You know? I don't know. I without going into too much detail, it's kind of silly in that sense. Like, oh my god, I feel so anxious, you know, and that kind of like ruins what they're trying to do. I don't know. It was all right. I'd give it about a 2.5, just because it was unpredictable. It was kind of funny. It had its parts. There were some gory parts, and I didn't see what it was just based on the trailer, like to what it actually was, you know. Yeah.
It sounds really interesting. It's definitely sounds like something worth checking out. And what did you say it was streaming on?
Paramount Plus.
Okay, so if you got Paramount Plus, definitely check that out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2.5 stars, that isn't bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's
like I said,
better.
I didn't hate it. It was definitely better than I thought it was going to be going into this, because I just got that feeling like, did I just pick up some pile of dog shit? Like Chris said, I'm pretty good at picking bad movies sometimes, you know, just really bad. So I thought it was going to be one of those, but it was surprisingly not as bad as it looked. You know, being an alien movie, I didn't expect that. I bet if I would have read something about it, like you definitely would have known. And you know that in the first five minutes of the movie. So I was like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. All right.
Very cool. Yeah, something different.
Not terrible.
Am I up next? Who's up next?
Chris.
All right, big dog, go for it.
All right, the last one I'm gonna talk about before we get to our spoiler film was my favorite I watched this week. I went in blind with this fucking thing, and it was a real horror show. Like, this one ratcheted up the tension from the very first scene, and it did not let go. And it was really intense. This was called Terrified, not Terrifier, Terrified, which is on Shudder. 2018 Argentinian movie. It is subtitled, but basically what you have is a neighborhood, and almost everyone on the block is being afflicted by something different and supernatural going on. And it ends up really fucking with all these people, and then it kind of goes into a paranormal investigation kind of thing. This is one of the ones where I will not talk a lot about it. It definitely behooves you to go in blind. The opening scene pre-credits might be one of my favorite cold opens I've seen in a long time. And then there's a interesting story that's kind of similar to Pet Sematary that was really fucking cool and creepy. Really got under my skin. It's not a long watch, but it's very tense. It's one of those ones where like they really do a good job of building atmospherics and like really making you on the edge of your seat and like wondering and needing to know what's happening. And they know when to kind of like draw it out to get you to be like, come on, I gotta figure this shit the fuck out, you know, like that. I love this thing a lot. This is definitely another one I'm gonna get a copy of. I'll give it 4.5. Terrified. It lived up to its name. It was fan-fucking-tastic.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I remember this came out about the same time as the first Terrifier movie, and I think it confused a lot of people because everybody was praising Terrified the Argentinian movie you just talked about, because I have heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm surprised I haven't watched it yet, to be honest.
Do it.
And then Terrifier, which the first one I do like, but it is, just sloppy, gory exploitation, and compared to what people have said about Terrified, it didn't match up to me. So I'm very excited to go back and check out Terrified on Shudder, you said?
Yeah, it's a Shudder original. It is subtitled, but it's not one of those things where it's like super, super dialogue heavy. It's more of a tension and atmosphere kind of thing, but it's not like a main movie where it's a slow burn. Like this one just starts hitting you in the face right off the bat, and it doesn't really let up. And it presents you with some cool situations you might not have seen before in a horror movie. It was pretty cool, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. But my last movie before we get to Spoiler Town was a kind of under the radar movie by Lucky McKee, and I'm a huge fan of his. Ever since he came out with, I'm pretty sure it was his debut film, May. And if you don't like May, then we can't be friends.
His praises have already been sung on this podcast before.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Good to know. But like for a male director, male writer, male filmmaker, I really think, and this is as a guy saying this, every one of his films features, troubled women that I can think of, or mostly troubled women. And he nails that sort of emotion from beginning to end. And it's kind of amazing for a male filmmaker to do that without looking like they're pandering to an audience. Mm-hmm. And there has never been a time where I've watched one of his films and like that was, what he was going for, and he didn't nail it. So in Kindred Spirits, it's a single mother and her daughter, teenage daughter. I think she's supposed to be 16 and she's kind of alternative. She's got like anger issues. Like she punches out this classmate who just looked at her funny. She's some preppy girl looked at her funny. So she hauled off and knocked the girl in the face. So we're all, everybody who has anger issues or emotional issues or punk rock or weirdo, we've all like looked at this girl and been like, oh shit, yeah, I'm with her, So then the mother's sister, the girl's aunt, just shows up one day out of the blue and decides she's going to start living with them. And pretty shortly after the teenage daughter and this aunt really hit it off. They are kindred spirits. And they start hanging out. The aunt gets a wig that looks like the daughter's, and she starts fucking the daughter's boyfriend and like kind of messing with this daughter's life. Like she's going to take over this girl's life. She's going to parties and saying that she's a high school student. It's almost like a single white female vibe, but when you have like a 25-year-old or what's supposed to be a 25-year-old woman having sex with this teenage girl's boyfriend who's supposed to be 16, it's like I think that's like the ill factor actually makes it like more potent, makes it more like, okay, this is fucked up and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Cool soundtrack. Was great for the most part. I mean, there was a little bit of editing that I had a problem with, like during the sex scenes, the camera gets all wonky, but that's okay. It's a adult having sex with a teenage boy.
Yeah, that's
really
awkward anyway.
Yeah, let's make the camera work a little wonky.
Yeah.
There's enough twists and turns that keep you interested in the story. There's some cool kills that keep you interested in the story. I couldn't name any of the stars offhand, but like it's those type of character actors where you're like, oh, I know that face from somewhere.
Yeah.
Or like
Is this called Kindred Spirits?
Kindred Spirits. Yeah, it's streaming on Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah, this sounds up my alley for sure.
Yeah, it came out in 2019, and I remember I just missed it during the Cinepocalypse Film Festival, and but it was funny. I made it in time for Lucky McKee to do his Q&A and come out of the theater and get a picture with him and be like, awesome. I totally fanboyed out. And I was just like, I want to get a picture with you. I'm sorry I missed your movie, but I want to get a picture with you. Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. And it's, single white female, but with a teenage girl and psychological problems. It's great. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 just for originality, something different, something unique, and have that female perspective instead of like always being male oriented in a horror film, which I'm a guy, so that's great, but sure, it can get boring sometimes. And definitely worth a watch if you want to check it out. But there's several films called Kindred Spirits or something similar, so just make sure it's the right one from 2019 by Lucky McKee.
Hell yeah, man, that totally sounds up my alley. I might watch that later or something. And
I'm actually pretty excited that I never said Lucky McGee because people make that mistake, and if you follow him on Twitter, he's not too fond of that mistake.
Yeah, people don't like you not knowing their name when they work hard on their shit,
Yeah, it's totally understandable.
Right.
It's not like it's super complicated.
Right. Yeah. You read it. MCKEE. You can even say MCKEE. Lucky McKee.
So should I have the crew prepare the Zeppelin to Spoiler Town?
Spoiler Town it is.
Blah 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 blah.
We're gonna be.
Are we there?
And now for our feature presentation.
We're going to be... Does anyone else have any movies they need to do?
Nope. That was my 3.
Negative, big dog.
Let's get her done.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's get in the hydrofoil and glide on into Spoiler Town.
Yep.
So, Kelly, why don't you hit us with what this movie is, since it was your pick?
This one... this one is Witch in the Window. You can watch it on Shudder. It is a Shudder original. This one was, I didn't look up the year. I can't believe I didn't look up the year. I think 2018 or something.
2018.
Yep. Witch in the Window. This might be the first Shudder original that I ever seen. I remember watching it when I just got Shudder. So I hadn't watched this movie in years, but I always remembered having that general feeling from when I first watched it. Like, I watched it in the daytime the first time, and it generally creeped the shit out of me. Like, and it's not like a jump scare type of creepy. Like, it's a slow burn, but it's fucking like genuinely creepy.
Well, the cool thing I noticed a lot of is it's one of those movies that rewards you for paying attention to the backgrounds of the scenes. Because there will be scenes where, like, just for a split second they hide the woman in a frame, and there's ones that are like much more obvious where she'll be like silhouetted in a window, but there's like ones where like blink and you'll miss it. The other cool thing I really liked about this is you can tell, and this is proof that if you can write a good movie, you don't need a lot of money to make it or make it.
No.
Because I don't think this, aside from a little bit of makeup effects, I don't think this has a lot of special effects. I mean, I don't remember any CGI or any of that.
Actually, no, I don't remember any of that. Like, they did just rely on that, like, creepy old woman and, like, the makeup to be, and maybe a couple, like, camera tricks of her appearing places, but that's, other than that, it wasn't filled with crazy special effects. It was genuinely, like, storyline.
I put it in the group chat, but this guy does look if Paul Rudd aged like a normal person.
Yeah, the dad.
Like, he looks just like Paul Rudd, but he's probably younger than Paul Rudd, but he looks 10 years older than him,
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely 100%.
I see it.
but I thought it was great to do some sort of different on a haunted house story. And the arc of House Flipper, I don't think I've seen that too often, especially with a haunted house movie.
That
And
new CM Punk movie was the same way.
the what?
Yeah, that one. Yep.
The girl on the third floor, the one with CM Punk.
Oh
in it.
Yeah.
That's right. And that was better than I thought it would be.
It's been a while, but didn't the Changeling have something like that going on? No, he wasn't flipping the house. He was just living in there by himself.
Yeah,
Right.
I think you're right.
But then just to have like the family dynamic falling apart, and the kid is entering his teenage years, so he's, you know how teenagers are, he's sick of hearing it from his mom, he's sick of hearing it with his dad, but mom has a problem with him because he snuck onto the internet and was looking at sneaky stuff. And so the dad is like, well, I'll take him to Vermont to, just to get away from the city.
Yeah.
And, mom doesn't like dad flipping houses, so we're just going to keep this our little secret. But when they get there, the groundskeeper tells them the story about the witch in the window and the history behind the witch in the window, and how it was just an old woman who the townsfolk didn't care for, or the kids didn't care for.
And every town had one. Every neighborhood had one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. And she just wound up dying by herself in that window. And I think that is kind of a terrifying fact in itself, just to have this poor elderly woman staring out a window, die by herself, and her body just rots there for, it was like weeks.
Yeah, it was weeks.
Until they couldn't tell that her eyes were closed.
Until they realized like none of her lights were going off. They're like, okay, I think she might be dead. And it's that guy, the neighbor that used to walk by all the time. Well, he still does walk by, but he's the one who calls 911 and shit. But then as after she dies, as the house is rotting away and shit, he feels this weird, like, he's drawn to it. So he's walking, like, even after her death, he, like, sees her. He sees her a little bit. But he realizes that it's, the power goes out during, like, a big storm or something, and he realizes he doesn't see her that night. So he goes in and he cuts the power in the house, because the power kind of gives her energy. So... Go on.
The other thing, while we're on that I really liked about this is, yes, it's called The Witch in the Window, but it actually derived the name on what more a childhood rumor would be about a person, because it didn't have anything to do with being a witch. I mean, this was a straight up ghost story, but I do like that it kind of gave you an interesting mythology of like misunderstood youth, and like I got the vibe from it that she wasn't like a terrible person when she was alive. She was just scary.
Didn't they say she murdered her family?
That was the rumor. I don't think
that was the rumor. Okay, I missed that.
Right, and when the ghost isn't saying "get out," because in most haunted house movies, the ghost is like, "Get out! This is my house." She kept screaming, "Stay!" She wanted something. She wanted somebody to be with her, and there's a lot of times when elderly people that are left by themselves, they just want somebody to be there with them.
Yeah.
And so when the father and the kid move in and they start flipping it, and they actually discover the ghost, the woman's ghost in the attic, that's when it got genuinely, I was creeped out. Like, and
yeah,
like you guys, I watch horror movies all the time, but to literally get the goosebumps. And I was just like, wow, it was just so smart and different to have this elderly woman just be like, stay. She needed that comfort of like family. And and then the twists and the turns in there of like playing with mind, and it was almost like the Mouths of Madness movie by John Carpenter, where you think you're somewhere, you think you're doing something, but you're not really there. You're doing something else because they want to keep you there. And I thought that was brilliant too. But then to interject the subtext of, he says it briefly, but the father tells the son he's got a hole in his heart. He's taking a pill, and the son is like, well, you're going to be okay, right, Dad? And he's like, oh, yeah, everybody has this. It's not a big deal. When the ghost finally convinces the father to stay there, and the father, like, he comes to terms with this. Yeah. He comes to terms with, well, if I stay here, then she can leave, and then my ex-wife and my son can have a beautiful home to stay in. It was the last thing he could do before his heart gave out.
Well, that note that he left his son too, he's like, it's a good place again, because when she was there, it was always known as a bad place. But with him being there and taking the place and releasing that ghost from there, it was a good ghost watching it. Well, yeah, go on.
The other thing I think is that, like, this has no body count aside from,
yeah, you're right,
elderly Rudd passing away. And I actually think this is more of a an allegory for loneliness, depression, and acceptance. I think the hole in the heart that the dad talks about is like his family, and like him desperately trying to put this house together so he could put his family back together, and realizing that the only way he could be there for his family, because he can never put his heart back together, his family, is to replace this witch, and then he could be there with his family, and it could be a safe place to live, that they in a style of home that they've always wanted.
Yeah,
absolutely. And like, I don't think this is going to be everybody's jam, because it is much more of a drama, and it
is slow.
Yeah, it's a little slower, but the creepy factor, and like the brilliance of just having a whole family dynamic, and somebody sacrificing themselves to make a home for their family. I think it was just such a smart movie and such a well done movie. I'm glad you suggested it, because I would have never even looked it up.
Yeah, I'm glad I remembered about it. I completely forgot about it for a while. That one scene where the kid comes up the stairs and she's sitting in the chair. I love how he's got like the phone on her, and in the phone you can see that the chair's empty, but then he gets like face to face with her like that. I think that's one of the creepiest moments of the movie. It was kind
of like Deadstream when they did that, where he's looking through the camera, like he can't see it in front of his face, but it was like opposite. But in the camera, you could see the woman hanging.
Yeah.
And they did the opposite of this, where you could see it in person, but you couldn't record it. And they did the whole thing where, like, they don't make you question if there's a ghost there or not. They're like, no, it's right there. They can clear as day say it. They are interacting with it,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it gave a strong sort of Mike Flanagan feel to it. All the haunted house like dramas that he's done. And I'm a big Mike Flanagan mark. Everything he's done is genius. So I think that right there is a great recommendation for this film. If you have Shudder, if you have AMC Plus, which I think is the parent company of Shudder, you should watch this. Like I said, it's probably not for every horror fan, but you should still watch it. It's a brilliant film.
Yeah, I'm glad I remembered about it, because
I'm glad you did too.
Yeah.
The guy who made it made a movie I actually talked about not too long ago on here, watching for a first time, and it felt like the guy would be able to do something, but that movie just wasn't it. And that was a movie called Yellow Brick Road. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I love Yellow Brick Road.
I didn't think it nailed any of the storytelling it was trying to make, but it knew how to build dread. You know what I'm saying?
I seen that on there. I haven't watched it yet, but I seen
it. And apparently his newest movie, The Harbinger, that just came out, is a Thanksgiving horror. So I'm gonna have to check that out now.
Okay.
Yeah. Very cool.
Oh yeah. We got Christmas horror coming up.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm about to start jamming Christmas horror down y'all's throat. So
yeah.
If I can't suggest it as a main movie, y'all about to start hearing about some goddamn Santa sleigh.
Oh yeah.
If you suggest any Christmas themed, holiday themed horror that I haven't watched or seen, I will be impressed.
Hell yeah.
That is my
Kelli.
jam. That is my jam. I watch like all the crappy ones on Tubi all the way up to the most bigger budget ones. Yeah. When I tell you that, besides the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 5 is my favorite. Yeah, I think that's where we stand, and but we're in for some treats. I don't want to get totally off subject because Witch in the Window is what we're talking about, but we're in for some treats with Violent Night, Christmas, Bloody Christmas, and even I checked out the trailer for the Mean One. The Mean One looks good, actually. It looks better than what I thought, at least.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, this is going to be a violent Christmas, and I'm excited for it.
Not only that what's interesting about the Mean One is it's Howard Thornton that's playing the Grinch. So it's the guy who's playing Art the Clown. So the guy knows how to emote without speaking through makeup. So that might make it a little bit more elevated, that the guy at least knows how to bring a lot of personality to prosthetic work,
Andy's a super nice guy. But we should probably stay on the subject of
I think we're done though. I think
we're wrapping it up.
Witch of the Window. I don't have much more to say about it.
Let's get into that Christmas horror though next week.
Yeah.
Well, let's do our breakdown. Obviously, there's not going to be best kill because I think there's only one death in this movie.
Mm-hmm. No best kill. Creepiest part.
Favorite thing about the movie?
The creep factor without having the killing, it's not even jump scares. It's just like legit story and a couple little background things that make it creepy as fuck, That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I'd have to say the subtext, the allegory about a broken family, and somebody sacrificing themselves to try and put the family back together. One last thing that they can do to try. It's like a one last ditch effort to make things better that he screwed up. And I thought that was really smart. That was a really, really smart turn that they did because I wasn't expecting that, and that had me thinking days later about it, in which, wasn't something I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more of a boilerplate supernatural story. The one thing, like we've all mentioned it, but the sense of dread that is just dripping in this thing, because really not a lot of crazy shit happens, but they know how to make even the most mundane things seem dreadful. And not only that, it's a very small cast. I think it's like 5 or 6 people in the whole thing, and everyone can act. Like especially the little kid actor, the guy playing the dad. They gave the one neighbor a kind of weird accent, which kind of bugged me just a little bit, but that was about it,
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to do a Vermont accent, which is, hard to do because there's a very distinctive Maine accent. There's a very distinctive New Hampshire accent, but Vermont is, kind of in between those two places, and it kind of 69's New Hampshire. It's hard to figure out, that accent. So, I have to still give him props for trying something different and going for it. But the whole thing gave me Mike Flanagan vibes, gave me Stephen King vibes, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, anything else anybody wants to hit on before we get out of here?
Negative, big dog.
All right. We'll be back next week with, I guarantee you, some Christmas horror. We'll definitely let you know what the movie is ahead of time, like we always do. We'll always drop it on Tuesday, what we're doing for the Monday the next week. It'll definitely be some Christmas horror. We just, with it being one of the favorite genres of the three of us, I think it's gonna be one of those ones where everyone wants to throw their hat in on what we do. So, we'll figure it out. We'll do some new stuff. We'll do some classics. And then I know everything that, aside from, like, if anything really big drops, everything I'm going to be watching is just going to be no budget Christmas horror. By the way, Germ, I just want to throw this out there. Kelli has never seen the original Black Christmas.
Oh, for shame. That is a masterpiece in American giallo.
We might want to throw that in the mix.
All right. Well,
everyone. There's 2 remakes now, and they both suck.
They're oh my god! I didn't even realize how horrible they were. I'm glad they were streaming because I had to put them in my eye holes, and I did not like them. I did not like what went into my eyes.
I like how they gave the guy jaundice in the first remake. He looks like the yellow bastard from Sin City. All right, so yeah, we'll be back with something Christmas related from all of us spooky bitches over here. Take it easy, guys.
All right. In the meantime, God bless America and send dudes. Ow!
Hey, all you cats and kittens, all you ladies and lady killers out there in real Violand. This is your old pal, Mr. Germ T. Ripper, saying keep it spooky, keep it creepy, keep it real vile forever. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share all our content. Ow!